Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I'm here to support my geographical neighbour, the Honourable Member for Harwich and North Essex. He's absolutely right. It would be wholly irresponsible to commence the building of thousands of houses without knowing that a road is going to be completed. And so I'm here to support completely what he says, and I'm sure that constituents in all neighbouring constituencies would overwhelmingly agree. I just wonder whether ever, when these things are debated, be it here or in the main chamber, whether we ever really pause for a moment to understand what we've done, what both Conservative and Labour governments have done. A 10 million increase in the population in the last 20 years. The Office of National Statistics this morning suggesting that another 3 to 4 million will be added in the next few years. These are all problems of uncontrolled mass migration and the population explosion. I wonder whether many members level with their constituents about the causal factors here.
Nigel Farage, the ever-controversial firebrand of British politics, has once again seized the spotlight with his latest remarks on the government's immigration policy. In his recent address, he condemned what he called uncontrolled mass migration and linked it directly to a growing housing crisis exacerbated by inadequate infrastructure planning. But is his criticism a valid reflection of policy failures or merely another political maneuver aimed at his voter base? Video Farage's central argument is simple yet striking. Building thousands of houses without completing the necessary road infrastructure is a reckless approach to urban planning. In his words, the government's failure to coordinate housing development with transport links is irresponsible, particularly at a time when the UK is experiencing a surge in population due to immigration. On the surface, this critique taps into a genuine public concern. Traffic congestion, crumbling roads, and overwhelmed public services are visible symptoms of poor planning in many rapidly growing towns and cities. If new housing projects are greenlit without a corresponding investment in infrastructure, the consequences are real: clogged roads, longer commute times, and an increased burden on local amenities. Farage's emphasis on uncontrolled migration as the primary driver of the crisis is where his argument takes on a more ideological tone. While net migration figures have indeed reached record highs in recent years, it is crucial to distinguish between correlation and causation. The UK's housing crisis is a multifaceted issue rooted in decades of policy choices, economic constraints, and planning inefficiencies. Housing shortages, skyrocketing rents, and infrastructure strain are as much a result of sluggish local planning regulations and developer land banking as they are of population growth. Blaming immigration alone overlooks the structural inefficiencies that successive governments have failed to address. Farage's rhetoric on immigration has always been a potent tool for rallying support, particularly among voters who feel left behind by globalization and urban expansion. By framing the housing and infrastructure crisis as a consequence of mass migration, he is tapping into deep-seated anxieties over national identity and economic security. However, his critics argue that this narrative oversimplifies the debate. While migration undeniably contributes to demand for housing, it is also a vital force in sustaining the UK's workforce. The construction sector and various other industries rely heavily on migrant labor. Cutting migration drastically, as Farage has often advocated, could create labor shortages that would ultimately hamper infrastructure development rather than accelerate it. If Farage's concerns about infrastructure are genuine, the solution is not simply to curb immigration, but to demand a more integrated and forward-thinking approach to urban planning. Governments must align housing projects with robust infrastructure strategies, ensuring that transport, schools, and healthcare facilities keep pace with new developments. Ultimately, while Farage's argument highlights a legitimate issue, his prescription, a hardline stance on immigration, may not be the silver bullet he claims. Addressing Britain's housing crisis requires more than just reducing migration. It demands comprehensive reforms in planning, investment, and governance. Whether Farage's words will translate into actionable policy or remain political rhetoric will depend on whether his critique sparks a broader conversation, one that moves beyond populist slogans and into the realm of real solutions.
Mr. Speaker, it's good for working people and it's good for the economy. And she should keep up. The CBI have welcomed our positive steps this morning. Their quotes. The Chancellor's just given a brilliant speech on the economy, fixing the mess they left and growing our economy. CBI said they celebrate their positive leadership, a clear vision to kickstart our economy. That's the difference. We're growing the economy. They left it in a complete mess.
Mr. Speaker, the arrogance of the Prime Minister is that he thinks that it's his government that creates growth. He's wrong. It is business that creates growth. Our economy is built by entrepreneurs, risk takers, and the hard graft of working people. They know that you can't tax your way to growth. You can't borrow your way to growth. You can't legislate your way to growth. Other countries are serious about freeing business from red tape. President Trump is doing it in America. Argentina is taking a chainsaw to regulations. Even the EU is not going as far as this left-wing government. This bill will put us at the bottom of the pack. Add it to the jobs tax, the family business tax. It's no wonder wealth creators are fleeing Britain in droves. The Chancellor is desperately trying to save her reputation. She knows Labour have damaged growth. This bill manifestly fails the Prime Minister's own growth test. If he won't drop the unemployment bill, what is the point of his growth test?
She's got a nerve. They broke the economy, completely destroyed it. They broke the health service, completely destroyed it. They've ruined us on prisons and everything else you could mention. They failed on every front. They're in no position to give us lectures on anything. And she says that she accepts they failed. They're changing. They've learnt absolutely nothing.
In a sharp rebuke of Labour leader Keir Starmer, Kemi Badenoch has accused him of arrogance for believing that government, rather than the private sector, is the true engine of economic growth. The comment, delivered in the context of ongoing political wrangling over the UK's economic future, highlights a fundamental ideological divide between state interventionism and free market economics. Badenoch's criticism underscores a long-standing conservative belief that economic prosperity is built by businesses, not dictated by government policy. The argument is rooted in three key principles: private enterprise as the primary driver, businesses create jobs, innovate and contribute directly to economic growth, lower taxes and reduced regulation. Conservatives argue that cutting red tape and taxation allows businesses to thrive. A limited government role. The belief that too much government intervention can stifle competition and efficiency. From this viewpoint, Starmer's supposed arrogance stems from an overestimation of the state's role in fostering economic success. Badenoch and her conservative colleagues warn that Labour's potential return to power could herald a period of overregulation and high taxation that stifles business-led growth. Labour argues that government action is essential to correcting market failures, fostering innovation in emerging industries, and ensuring economic prosperity is widely shared. They counter conservative claims by pointing out that unregulated markets can lead to inequality, corporate monopolization, and stagnation in critical public services. The debate over whether businesses or government drive economic growth is not a new one, and the answer is not as black and white as political rhetoric suggests. While private enterprises are the key innovators and job creators, they operate within a framework set by government policies. As the UK heads toward the next general election, the debate over economic growth will remain central to political discourse. While Badenoch's comments align with conservative free market values, Labour will need to show that its approach to government-led investment is not about excessive control, but about creating conditions for sustainable growth. The real test will be which party convinces voters that its vision is best suited for the UK's economic recovery and long-term prosperity. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Join our Telegram community for exclusive updates and discussions. See you in the next one.